This story of a wretched girl reborn opens on a night torn apart by storms. Deep within an ancient forest, inside a castle drenched in gloom, her solitary cry rang hollow. I only ever wanted to be treated the way everyone else was. They faced each other in a corridor flanked by windows that gaped into the darkness. Freezing rain hammered down, swallowing every other sound. Across this land of shadows, the man fixed her with an emotionless stare, not a shred of mercy in it. A gleaming, razor-edged sword filled his grip as he spoke. "Did you know it would end like this?" She gazed at him stunned, then bowed her head under the weight of her sorrow. "I have known for a long time," she whispered, her voice fracturing, "that Her lips sealed shut as tears carved rivers down her cheeks. Without warning, she wrenched a small dagger free and hurled herself at him, and he did not move an inch. Yet the instant the blade drew close, the unfinished truth surged through her mind, that I would die in this place, and her eyes blew wide. In their reflection, she saw the man she loved lunging toward her, and her tears spilled beyond all control. Lightning split the sky and laid the scene bare, the sword buried through her heart, the unmistakable silhouette of the man behind it. He said nothing, jaw clenched, watching her. In those final seconds, her trembling hand found his face, fingers tracing it gently, the ache in her chest eclipsing even the wound that bled her dry. Then she released everything and crumpled, slow as falling petals. A love nurtured across years disintegrated in a single heartbeat. I never wanted to accept that 25 years had slipped away so meaninglessly. Why did he kill me? With her last ember of awareness, she thought, if someone would grant me one more chance, I would begin again from nothing. Her eyes fell shut, and an immeasurable darkness engulfed her, timeless, infinite. Through that pitch-black abyss, she heard the merciless grinding of clockwork gears, turning without end. Every memory dissolved, devoured by the void. Then in a breath, everything crystallized, sharp, luminous, blazing with daylight. And daylight it truly was. She sat poised before a mirror, immaculately dressed, radiant as always, the young lady of House Rotlin. She went rigid. What is happening? Scanning her old bedroom, she struggled to tell dream from reality. The air locked in her lungs. A gentle hand curled around her arm without warning, and a voice called out, "My lady!" A middle-aged woman in small spectacles peered at her with open concern. "Are you all right?" The girl stared back, thunderstruck. "Elda? How?" Disbelief flooded her widening eyes. How is this possible? She knew for certain that Elda had perished years ago. Memories crashed over her. A shattered glass, her father standing with blood smeared across his hands, a scream tearing the air. "Adeline is not your daughter." Then the whispers that followed. Good heavens, did Viscount Rotlin take a mistress? Is that girl his illegitimate child? Her earliest memory was of being cradled in Elda's arms at a banquet where their very presence was announced like an intrusion. 2 uninvited guests. Elda, her nursemaid, had clutched her tight, shielding the child from every poisonous word. From that day forward, branded by her low-born origins as House Rotlin's unacknowledged daughter, Adeline had walked through the world utterly alone. Those memories sliced into her like a blade. And now, standing before the one person who had loved her most in all the world, emotion overwhelmed her completely. Tears surged as she threw herself into Elda's arms, thinking, the only soul who stood beside me through that hell. Elda, breathing and alive. This is no illusion. Wrapped in Elda's warmth, hearing that familiar, gentle voice, she understood with absolute certainty. This was no dream. Elda blinked in surprise at the intensity of her reaction, worry creasing her face. "Truly, Lady Adeline, you do not want this, do you? This marriage to that duke." She settled beside her young mistress, part mother, part confidant. Adeline clasped her hand and smiled. Elda being here was already more happiness than she had any right to wish for. "Do not worry, Elda," she said softly. "I am truly fine." Still unconvinced, Elda dabbed at her tears with the tenderness of a doting mother. "I am so worried about you," Adeline thought warmly. "That is exactly why I love you, Elda." And so our heroine, Adeline Rotlin, reborn for a second shot at life, found her resolve once more. Knocked down, get up swinging twice as hard. Beneath her gentle exterior, her spirit ignited. Yes, today is my wedding day. A loveless union that exists on paper and nothing more. Shadows of the past dragged a pang of grief across her heart as she lowered her gaze. I believed I could claw my way free of House Rotlin, yet they still treated me like I was nothing. In that suffocating castle, everything only spiraled deeper into misery. I have no idea how it all unraveled, but here I am again. Adeline drew a long, steadying breath. I have returned to this moment. This is my second chance. Gazing out the window at the brilliant sunlight, she made her vow, this time I will live on my own terms. The door groaned open. Adeline glanced over to find Bianca Rotlin, House Rotlin's sole legitimate daughter, sauntering in. Her so-called dear sister brandished a fan, sharp eyes glittering with spiteful delight. How fortunate for you, she sneered. Looks like you will be alone for the rest of your miserable life. A smirk curled her lips. Who on earth would want to marry someone like you? That man has absolutely no taste. Adeline dipped her head, affecting a look of remorse. You are absolutely right. Lady Bianca, the prized jewel of House Rotlin, and yet he chose someone like me. Privately, she thought, why did I ever let myself get tangled up with that man? Her tone hardened to steel as she pressed on. You are right. The fact remains, a man did choose someone like me. Something sharp flickered behind her eyes. I suppose I ought to be grateful for that. Bianca recoiled, glaring at the sister she loathed. Nearby, Elda wondered quietly, is Lady Adeline dropping the formal register? This Adeline was no longer the weeping, broken girl of her former life. I can reshape my future with my own hands, she thought. Chin held high, she declared, a man chose me. But, Bianca snapped, what? You are marrying some nobody duke. You honestly think I would be jealous? Adeline's smirk deepened. Forgive me, but our situations could not be more different. You do not even have the luxury of being chosen. The words hammered Bianca's rawest nerve. Knuckles whitening around her fan, Bianca seethed, Are you serious? A bastard like you? She raised the fan to strike, but the butler's voice cut through. Lady Adeline? He cleared his throat with practiced composure. Duke Venzak requests your presence in the drawing room. Adeline exhaled with relief. Perfect timing. Turning on her heel, she cast one final glance at Bianca. Farewell, then. She swept from the room without looking back, leaving Bianca trembling with fury, shrieking, Adeline! The grand doors swung wide, and Adeline was prepared to cross the threshold once more. This time nothing would unfold the same way. As she walked, her mind churned. Whether God or some unknowable force granted me this chance, there must be a reason I have been sent back to this exact day. She remembered that place, the land of shadows from which no one ever returned alive. A merciless duke reigned over it, a man consumed by power who answered to no kingdom, Horace Venzak. Pushing the door open, she braced herself. A reunion with my notorious husband. Every eye in the sprawling room locked onto her. The Duke and Duchess Venzak, a handful of servants, and there, at the far end of the room, her husband from a life already lived. Adeline's gaze grew tender. I loved him with everything I had once, and I died on the edge of his sword. A voice she knew too well shattered the silence of her memories. Are you Adeline Rotlin? That devastatingly handsome Arctic face was unlike any other. Agony flared through her the instant their eyes met again. Frost settled over her expression as she answered with practiced courtesy. I can scarcely believe we are meeting here, Duke Venzak. Dipping into a graceful curtsy, she continued. I am Adeline Rotlin. The honor is mine, Duke Venzak. She offered her hand with a smile that did not quite reach her eyes. Would you be so kind as to lead the way? Horace examined her closely, guarded, watchful, yet without hostility. Days earlier, a dream had planted a voice deep in his mind. O seer of truth, find Adeline Rotlin. Stand at her side. Build your world together. Upon waking, Horace had gathered his confidants at the parlor. Aster Leffa, notebook in hand, had reasoned. Given the captain's prophetic dream, this almost certainly involves the seer we have been hunting. We will need to verify whether she is genuinely the one, but we must secure her before anyone else catches on. Horace had remained seated in heavy silence, weighing every word. Aster had continued. She was visibly terrified at the mere mention of your name. The speed with which she accepted the marriage proposal concerns me. Naturally, no ceremony will take place, but you should at least escort her in person. Arms folded at his desk, Harris had muttered without interest. "What is the point?" Aster had answered plainly. "At minimum, show the girl some respect. She is pitiable." Harris had pressed his lips together, deliberating. Aster, warming to the subject, had insisted. "She is a gentle, humble lady. Surely that will not be so difficult?" That argument alone had brought Harris here. Now studying Adeline, disillusionment settled across his features. Aster swore she was humble and pitiable. This woman? He took in her striking, unwavering face. What manner of person meets my gaze without even a flicker of fear? Brushing past her, he said flatly, "Let's go." Adeline had braced herself for something, anything, and the hollow nothing she received stung. She lowered her head, thinking, he is absolutely wretched. No ceremony, a perfunctory proposal, and the sum total of his words is 2 syllables. I devoted 25 years of love to this man, only to be greeted like a stranger, frigid as always. As they crossed paths, she spoke up. "Will you not lead the way, my lord?" Harris pivoted sharply, a glint of curiosity betraying his stoic mask. His gaze swept her lovely face once more, and despite himself, he complied. Outside, beside an opulent carriage, Harris leaned against a tree, muttering, "Where exactly is this humble and gentle lady I was promised?" Aster laughed, picturing Adeline's former demeanor. Wearing his most innocent grin, he offered, "Ha-ha, peculiar, is it not? When I first met her, she was the picture of humility, flustered, could not even raise her head." And Aster had not been lying. But the Adeline he had encountered before was simply not the Adeline standing here today. The coachman called out, "The Duchess's carriage has arrived. Let us return to the manor." Seated inside, Adeline drifted deep into thought. After a prolonged silence, she murmured, "I cannot see the scenery through these walls. Have we arrived?" The carriage shuddered to a halt, and they emerged into a hushed primeval forest. Do not act shocked that there is no bustling city waiting outside. This is the ancient era, and desolate wilderness does not exactly attract crowds. Adeline turned to Harris, expectant. He betrayed no irritation but stated, "The Duchess must travel a different route." A cautious edge entered his voice. "Have you ever encountered magic?" Adeline beamed. "Of course I have." What he could never know was that in her previous life, he had been the one who taught her everything about it. She remembered how patiently he would explain every concept she failed to grasp, answering question after question. She must have driven him half mad with her persistence. And yet, that relentless patience was precisely why she had fallen so hopelessly in love with him. Drowning in those memories, she almost missed him asking, "Can you use it?" Adeline chose her words with care. "I do not fully understand it, but I can manage to a degree." The rest of the truth died on her tongue. "Everything I know, you taught me. I was never able to repay that, but..." With a quiet sigh, she turned aside to mask the turmoil in her eyes. Harris pressed further. "What kind can you use?" Adeline deflected coolly. "Must I give a demonstration right this moment? I am rather tired." Harris regarded her from his considerable height, eyes sweeping downward. "I was told the youngest daughter of House Rotlin is remarkably humble, yet you bear no resemblance to those rumors." Adeline fired back without hesitation. "If that is what you prefer, then by all means go find yourself such a woman." She whirled to face him, their gazes colliding in a fierce, unyielding standoff. Aster, caught between them, broke into a visible sweat and flapped his hands in a frantic attempt to de-escalate. Harris, arms still folded, shifted topics. "Have you ever stepped through a teleportation circle?" Adeline answered with clipped precision. "Never." "Some people experience vertigo on their first passage," he cautioned. "Brace yourself." Ancient runes blazed to life as he cast the spell directly before her, a dazzling constellation of symbols that flooded the clearing with light. Adeline raised a hand against the searing glare. "It is difficult to withstand," he warned. Recognition and wonder warred across Adeline's face as she offered a knowing smile. "I will manage." They pressed deeper into the forest, moonlight spilling across every surface. Harris moved soundlessly over the grass and remarked, "She must have already passed through. So this is the Duke's territory?" From behind him, Adeline's voice burst out, "These trees are magnificent, and this place is breathtaking." She stood with her arms wrapped around a massive trunk, startling both men who clicked their tongues in unison. "What a fascinating review," they muttered dryly. Releasing the tree, Adeline stepped forward. "I would like to put a few conditions on the table." Both men folded their arms, awaiting her terms. Horace arched an eyebrow. "You believe you are in a position to negotiate?" Adeline tilted her head with a playful smirk. "Oh, and why not? You need something from me, do you not? Or were you expecting it for free? Are you truly a duke?" Horace's expression darkened as he cut straight to it. "Adeline, are you the seer?" Adeline paused, her mind racing through calculations. "Just as I suspected. They believe I am the seer. I will simply play along. No reason to correct a misunderstanding that benefits me, is there?" Meeting his gaze levelly, she declared, "Duke Horace Venzak, I expect treatment befitting my abilities. I will not relinquish my name and will continue living as Adeline Rotlin." Irritation flickered across Horace's face, though he could not quite pinpoint its source. Adeline stood before him, arrestingly beautiful. He went still, unable to tear his eyes away. Astor raised a diplomatic hand. "Ah, hold on a moment, Adeline. You are aware you are betrothed to the Duke, yes?" She covered her mouth, laughing brightly. "If I were not, why would I be standing here?" Astor scratched the back of his head, flustered. "Right, haha, fair point, but why keep your name? If you retain your maiden name, other men may come courting. That would reflect poorly on all of us." Adeline laughed again, undeterred. "Oh, so now you are concerned for my reputation? Perhaps you should have worried about that before arranging this marriage, not after. Spare yourself the trouble. I could not care less what others think. Your captain surely feels the same, does he not?" Astor stood there, thoroughly outmaneuvered and speechless. Harris exhaled through his nose, thinking, "This girl." Adeline, savoring her victory, jabbed a finger in his direction. "See? He appreciates a woman like me." Astor offered a nervous chuckle. "Well, Captain..." Privately, he questioned how accurate that claim really was, but Harris found himself thinking, "It is not an unreasonable proposal." He added silently, "Yet why does it sit so uneasily? This should lighten my tedious obligations." Still, something in me resists, as though she is deliberately carving out distance between us. His eyes drifted to where she chatted animatedly with Astor, conspicuously not with him, and a nameless irritation prickled beneath his skin. Adeline turned back, the warm smile she had worn for Astor vanishing. Addressing Harasi directly, she said, "In public, I will fulfill my role as the Duchess of Venzak. In private, I remain Adeline Rotlin, and I have grand ambitions for the wedding." With theatrical flourish, she painted her vision of a lavish, extravagant ceremony. "Grant me a magnificent wedding." Looking him dead in the eyes, she added, "For the time being, consider us allies playing the part of a married couple." As their hands clasped, doubt nagged at Adeline. It is a sound arrangement, so why does he seem so reluctant? His only answer was terse. "Fine, let us proceed." A boisterous shout echoed from the distance. "Hey, you are back early!" A man strode toward them, radiating warmth with every step. "This must be the Duchess. What a pleasure to meet you." This kind-faced gentleman was Maven, steward of House Venzak. Adeline's gaze locked onto the familiar figure, and something soft and aching bloomed across her features. In her mind, she breathed his name. Maven, the only person who ever showed me kindness in this domain. A bolt of phantom lightning cracked through her thoughts, replaced by a horrific flash. Maven, torn apart by a monstrous octopus. She flinched violently. Tears threatened to spill, but she ducked her head and wrestled herself calm. The fragmented vision left her shaken. Was that a memory I had buried? Maven's worried voice yanked her back to the present. "Duchess!" "Duchess Venzak, are you all right? You look unwell." Adeline assembled a friendly smile. "Oh, I am fine. Just a touch of dizziness, nothing more." Her thoughts spiraled inward, grasping at the frayed edges of her former life. That is right. Maven died in the end. Why is this surfacing now? Are my memories fractured? Maven let out a shaky laugh. "You gave me quite a scare, my lady." Masking her overwhelming joy at finding him alive, Adeline offered a gentle smile. "Thank you, Maven. Would you simply call me Adeline?" Maven's eyes went wide with alarm. "What? How could I possibly address Duchess Venzak so informally?" Adeline responded with easy calm. A name is not so precious that it needs guarding. Just call me Adeline. To herself, she vowed, the past is finished. I will never let those horrors repeat. As Maven wavered, Harris released a long-suffering sigh. Just do what she asks. One could sense the unspoken question beneath his exasperation, why she had bestowed the privilege of her name on Maven before offering it to her own supposed husband. Maven, let us go, Adeline called brightly. The steward snapped to attention at once. Yes, Adeline, shall I help you into the carriage? Adeline shot a pointed look at Harras. And what are you standing there for, my lord? Are you not meant to be escorting me? Haras's jaw tightened, words failing him entirely. At last he turned, extending his hand for her to take. This time he managed 2 additional words beyond his usual vocabulary. Let us depart. Walking at his side, the smug satisfaction Adeline had earned from needling him evaporated. She could not hold back the torrent of feelings that flooded through her, standing so close to the man with whom she had spent a lifetime. The carriage finally rolled to a stop at its destination. Up front, Aster and Maven traded idle observations. Aster, our Duchess seems a bit different, would you not say? Maven ventured. Aster nodded slowly. Yeah, she is remarkably tough. Maven grinned wide. First time I have ever witnessed our Duke sigh like that. Aster cast a glance over his shoulder. Just sighing? I caught the captain looking genuinely flustered. Maven's eyes nearly popped. Truly? The captain? He is capable of being flustered? The world has turned upside down. Folding his arms, Maven murmured thoughtfully, peculiar. He recalled that Harris had displayed such raw emotion only once before, as a child, the day he was taken away. Things are about to get very interesting. Inside the carriage, the Venzak couple occupied opposite seats in smothering silence. Adeline's chest tightened with the urge to say, maybe I should ride up front with Maven. Why does he keep staring at me like he is trying to dissect my thoughts? Her gaze drifted out to the sprawling grassy plains, and she muttered internally, ugh, those idiots. As if brute force ever solved anything. This land still looks so desolate. Venture deeper into the forest of shadows, and there stands a castle. Beyond it, a settlement and a black tower, the servants' quarters. Her eyes traced the outlines of familiar structures. The residents here had never spared a single thought for making their homes beautiful. Piercing the silence, she observed, it appears you have done almost nothing with this land. There is so much wasted space. Harris's eyebrow rose as she continued, this stretch exists solely for carriages to pass through. I am envisioning a stunning garden here. What do you think? Harris clicked his tongue, arms crossed. Do whatever you please. So far, he had not opposed his wife even once. Adeline jabbed a finger toward the window with barely contained excitement. Truly? Even if it outshines the royal palace gardens? Harris answered flatly, you are clearly going to do whatever you want regardless. You are fretting over nothing. Adeline let out a soft laugh. Fretting over nothing? Easy words from someone who never has to do the work. She turned toward the carriage window and settled her chin into her palm, thoughts drifting far away. Why did I always smother my own desires before? Perhaps that is what they mean when they say attitude shapes destiny. No matter, I am a woman of conviction now, and I will act accordingly. Bathed in the light pouring through the glass, her slender silhouette seemed to dissolve into gold. This is what I am owed. Perhaps I will pursue every dream I only dared to imagine before. Her dreamy gaze wandered across the passing landscape. What trees should I plant? Which flowers? Tomorrow cannot arrive fast enough. They pulled up to Venzak Castle, where the household staff assembled to greet her with genuine warmth. The head steward swept into a bow, smiling broadly. Welcome, my lady. It is an honor to serve you. The maids dipped into graceful curtsies. Shall we prepare your chambers so you may rest? Received as the true mistress of the estate, Adeline smiled graciously. Yes, please see to it. I am rather tired. The steward led the way up the staircase with cheerful efficiency. Right this way, my lady. Maven chimed in. The third-floor rooms are spacious with wonderful sunlight, absolutely ideal. And they sit just beside the master's chambers, so you will feel perfectly safe. Adeline nodded, visibly pleased. Ha, is that so? Stealing a glance at Maven, warmth bloomed in her chest. I am so relieved he is alive. Having someone here who genuinely brightens my spirits is a comfort I had forgotten existed. Her heels rang sharply against the stone floor as she neared the chamber. The steward dipped into a respectful bow. "This shall be your room henceforth, my lady." Adeline stiffened for the briefest instant, willing herself calm. At last, I have crossed this threshold. In the life before, this room was never mine. Another woman claimed the title of lady in this castle, Hela, who appeared at Ray's side when he resurfaced after vanishing without a trace. She stole everything that belonged to me. A shadow crossed Adeline's expression, but steel hardened behind her eyes. This time, I refused to lose to any of them. Aloud, she offered a measured smile. "Yes, it suits me quite well." Mavin and Aster lit up at her approval, while Heresy, visibly disinterested, muttered, "Good, rest." "Wow, Adeline, I have to say, I was shocked," Maven burst out. She blinked with practiced innocence. "Oh, what do you mean?" Planting his hands on his hips, Maven declared, "Our master is not exactly the type to show concern for another person's feelings." Adeline widened her eyes in mock surprise. "Is that so? What does he normally do?" "He would march straight past everyone into his own quarters," Maven recounted with a knowing look. A sympathetic nod. "Haha, that sounds exactly like him." "Now, I am not saying he is a bad person," Maven added carefully. "He is just rough around the edges, shall we say?" Covering her mouth to stifle a laugh, Adeline replied, "I understand completely. If you vouch for him, Maven, I will take your word." Behind that gentle smile, her thoughts ran colder. Not a bad person, perhaps, but cold and self-absorbed. Most people would call that combination the worst of all. From the very beginning, marriage was nothing more than a strategic tool in his hands. Maven paused at the doorway before departing. "Oh, should you need anything at all, ring the bell and a maid will attend you. Would you care for something to eat now?" Adeline's eyes went wide. "Goodness, is it that late already?" Composing herself, she waved a hand. "I will skip lunch. There is quite a bit I need to sort through while I rest." "Will you join us for dinner, then?" Maven asked, turning back. A warm smile lit her face. "Of course, Maven. Do not fuss over me. Go tend to your duties." Mavin poked his head back through the gap in the door. "Very well. Rest easy." Sometime later, a tentative knock sounded at the door. "My lady, may I enter?" Adeline, draped languidly across the sofa, answered without moving. "Come in." A young maid slipped inside and lowered herself into a bow. "My name is Catherine. Starting today, I will serve as your personal attendant." "Ah, Catherine," Adeline acknowledged with a note of detachment. "Yes, my lady," Catherine repeated, bowing once more, awaiting instruction. "Just lend me a hand when I need it, Catherine," Adeline said simply. "Of course. Please do not hesitate to guide me, my lady," Catherine replied. Memories of their first encounter in her previous life surfaced unbidden. Catherine had been deferential at the start, but that respect curdled into contempt over time. Why did every person I treated with kindness eventually look down on me? Swallowing that old bitterness, Adeline pressed a palm to her forehead. "Very well. How old are you?" Catherine answered promptly. 22, my lady." Adeline gave a distant nod. "Fine. I will summon you if anything comes up. You are dismissed." Catherine exhaled with visible relief and dipped her head. "Yes, my lady. I shall take my leave." The moment she turned to go, Catherine's thoughts spiraled. What am I supposed to do? Her reaction seemed off. Did I already make a terrible first impression? Lost in that anxious haze, she collided with a nearby vase. The porcelain struck the floor and shattered with a deafening crash, jolting them both. Terror seized Catherine. She could already see the docked wages, but Adeline's only thought was for the razor-sharp shards surrounding the girl. Lunging forward without hesitation, Adeline caught Catherine by the shoulders, her worry entirely genuine. The sudden rescue left Catherine caught between gratitude and raw panic, her body still shaking from the catastrophe she had caused. She stumbled over a string of desperate apologies, but Adeline cut through them. "Catherine, forget the vase. That is not what matters." Still steadying the trembling maid, Adeline asked softly, "Are you hurt? Did any of the shards cut you?" A startled "ah" escaped Catherine. Overcome by the shock of her mistress physically holding her upright, she doubled over in a deep bow, pouring out apology after apology. Adeline offered a gentle, reassuring smile. "Do not give the vase another thought." I will call for you this afternoon. Thank you, my lady, Catherine managed, her cheeks burning scarlet. Once the door clicked shut behind her, Catherine's legs wobbled like a newborn foal's. She had never in her life been treated with such tender concern. The words tumbled out in a breathless monologue. She is unbelievable. I had no idea she would be like this. How foolish of me to feel jealous just because she married the master. She is as breathtaking as a porcelain doll, and I am her personal maid. This is incredible. Fire ignited behind Catherine's clenched jaw. I must tell every single person in this household how extraordinary the Duchess is. A silent oath swelled in her chest. I will make her the most respected woman under this roof. Back inside the room, an inexplicable shiver ran down Adeline's spine, blissfully unaware that she had just acquired her most devoted champion. Across the corridor, her husband was drowning in his own brooding. Jerez stood motionless before his chamber door, cloaked in the weight of solitary darkness. The strange distance in Adeline's earlier declaration echoed through his mind. For now, let's say we're allies pretending to be married. Her name fell from his lips like a question he could not answer. Adeline. Sinking into his desk chair, he found himself unable to think of anything but his so-called wife. She is right on the other side of that wall, so what? Yet I cannot shake it. That day, her radiant smile, the way she looked so stunning when she said with such effortless brightness, I love it. Fretting over a woman like her is a luxury I cannot afford, he told himself. His head drooped, heavy with confusion. Why does this gnaw at me so relentlessly? A knock interrupted the spiral. Captain, may I come in? What do you want? Harris asked flatly. Astor's voice carried through the door. I wanted to go over our next moves, and I am curious where your head is at. If you are here to waste my time with idle chatter, leave, Jerez replied, ice in every syllable. But if it concerns the prophecy, that is a different matter. A wide grin split Astor's face. Oh, the prophecy, is it? Before Astor could even state his purpose, Harasi seized the opening to unload on the one person who would listen. That woman claimed she would open my eyes. Does that mean I will finally be able to distinguish Diva from Asira? Astor's expression faltered. Hold on. Captain, please tell me you are not still referring to Adeline as that woman and this woman. If you keep using those terms, the servants will lose all respect for her. Tch, what a nuisance, Harisi spat. Is what I call her truly the most critical issue on our plate? We are buried under a mountain of problems. Astor stood his ground. No, I believe this is precisely the most critical issue. Adeline is part of your family now, Captain. You may have lost sight of it, but human beings are creatures built on bonds. They court, they wed, they raise children, they build a life together. Jerez went rigid, the silence stretching taut before he fired back. You know perfectly well that domestic bliss is a fantasy too far removed from my reality. His fist clenched until the knuckles whitened. I hear what Astor is saying, but the year is 512. His grip tightened further, tendons straining with quiet anguish. Since the war between heaven and the mortal realm ended in the Celestials' defeat, every waking moment has been consumed by the desperate struggle to restore what was lost. 60 years have passed since I awakened As and Wakan. We lack the power to locate other surviving Celestials, and there is no word of the Demon King or even the gateway to the demon realm. Frustration carved deep lines into Haras's face as he dragged a weary hand through his hair. Any word from Wakan? Have they uncovered traces of the Celestials who ventured into the silent realm? Astor groaned, lacing his fingers behind his head. Wakan sent a report, but most of it was utterly worthless. Elaborating with visible annoyance, he continued, They picked up traces, sure, but the cold drove them out before they could investigate properly. This is exactly why they should have sent me. Wakan's crew, absolute hotheads, Astor grumbled under his breath. Impatient beyond reason. Nothing but whiny children. Haresi grunted in agreement. Impatient is an understatement. Once they return, we move on the Ice Kingdom, Astor resolved. You should come along this time, Captain. A sigh escaped him. The distance alone is maddening. If only we had a working teleportation circle, the trip would take mere days. Jerez lifted one hand with grim resignation, pale threads of divine energy sputtering and flickering at his fingertips. What little divine power I have left is barely enough to sustain a candle flame. There is no alternative. He clenched his fist and the feeble light died. Come to think of it, that woman claimed she could wield magic. Can a seer even possess such an ability? His expression went blank, thoughts cascading. The Celestial's tree of life has withered to nothing. The demon clan's tree must have weakened in turn, with the demon king gone into hiding. That is why beings capable of channeling magic, celestials and demons alike, have all but vanished. The tree of magic serves as the wellspring of power for both sides. When the tree decays, the power bleeds away with it. And because divine and demonic energy share a common origin, neither celestials nor demons can tell which force someone is actually wielding. Adeline's luminous smile surfaced in his memory, brimming with quiet hope. Adeline Rotlin, the one who sees the truth, will enlighten you. So the prophecy declared. He turned the words over endlessly, searching for meaning. Could her ability to wield magic be connected to that promise? Does seeing the truth refer to something else entirely? Is it divine power she commands or demonic? That beautiful, defiant face filled his mind with renewed resolve. Why does something so strange and unsettling stir inside me every time I meet her gaze? What is it about those eyes? Meanwhile, Adeline sprawled across her generous bed, luxuriating in the novel freedom of having absolutely nothing demanded of her. Her gaze drifted toward the window. What is that roofline? Squinting, recognition dawned. I am at the Venzak estate. A quiet laugh escaped her. I died, and yet here I am, reborn, breathing, given a second chance at life. Soft afternoon light spilled through the window and pooled across her room. She drank it in. It is beautiful. Catherine's voice floated from the hallway. Lady Adeline, come in, she called back. Catherine crept inside, timid as a church mouse. Forgive me for disturbing you. I came to ask what you would prefer for dinner. Perfect timing, Adeline replied, sitting up. I was just about to ring for you. Eyes still glued to the floor, Catherine offered. Shall I escort you to the dining room? Or would you rather take your meal here, my lady? A bright smile crossed Adeline's face. The dining room, please. But I cannot possibly go downstairs looking like this. Would you mind helping me? When Catherine remained frozen in place, she added pointedly, How much longer do you intend to stand there gawking? A flush crept across Catherine's cheeks. But how could I possibly— Raise your head, Adeline said, half teasing, half commanding. I refuse to hold a conversation with the crown of someone's skull. Catherine lifted her gaze inch by hesitant inch. Adeline nodded approvingly. There we are. What a shame to keep such a lovely face hidden away. Now come help me change. This dress is hopelessly wrinkled. I need to look presentable before heading down. Color drained from Catherine's face. I am terribly sorry. It appears we have not prepared any proper garments for you. I'll go purchase something immediately. Adeline rested her chin on one hand, amused. At this hour? Are you planning to sprint all the way to the capital's dress shop? Catherine's shoulders slumped in defeat. We cannot, but— A sigh escaped Adeline. It is fine. I am not blaming you, Catherine. The master of this estate is the one at fault for failing to prepare a single thing for his arriving bride. None of this falls on your shoulders. Catherine, would you go fetch Maven for me? Catherine bolted for the door. Yes, I will be right back. Alone again, Adeline turned and ran her fingers through her hair with a contented hum. It seems there is quite the mountain of work ahead. First order of business. Teaching Ray what it means to properly welcome the lady of this house. Maven materialized promptly, all smiles. Lady Adeline, you summoned me? I understand it concerns clothing. She turned to face him squarely. Could you bring me some of the Duke's garments? I need to change, and there is literally nothing here for me. A bead of sweat rolled down Maven's temple. The Duke's clothes? Precisely, Adeline confirmed, her smile angelic and devastating. The man responsible for this disaster could not be bothered to think of me. But that is no reason for me to appear disheveled, is it? He bears the blame, so his wardrobe pays the price. Fetch me something fine. Both servants gaped at their new mistress, awestruck by her sheer audacity, then exchanged a look of dawning horror. Surely Adeline does not intend to domesticate our feral master into an actual civilized human being? The mental image of Adeline collaring the untamed Venzak beast, tying it with a silk ribbon, and surveying her work with a triumphant grin sent a chill through Maven and Catherine. Then, with barely suppressed delight, they scrambled off to execute her orders. Adeline watched the two eager servants disappear around the corner, warmth filling her chest. Oh, look at them go. So willing, so enthusiastic. A stab of sadness followed on its heels. These are things I could never have imagined in my previous life. Back then, I was helpless in the dressing room. I lost count of how many times I shuffled to dinner in a wrinkled, shameful dress. It never occurred to me to ask Maven for help, and Catherine never spared me a kind glance. The reason everything bends so easily to my will this time is because the realization settled over her like cold water. In my past life, I wasted every single day. One wall away, her husband hunched over his desk, eyes locked on a document, never once looking up as Maven spoke. So that woman wants my clothes? Yes, Maven explained earnestly. Had it not been so late, I would have purchased dresses for her immediately. But as things stand, she has absolutely nothing to wear. The predicament etched a crease between Harris's brows. Under normal circumstances, husbands rarely concern themselves with their wives' wardrobe choices. It all ends the same way, folks. But Harris found himself genuinely curious about Adeline's request. His pen came to rest on the desk. Why mine, specifically? Have her find a maid of similar build and borrow from her. He folded his arms with finality. Maven nearly leaped out of his skin. Master, absolutely not. Dressing her in a servant's clothing would be a disgrace. Harris exhaled through his nose, turning back to his notes. So borrowing a maid's outfit is beneath her dignity, but wearing a man's wardrobe is perfectly acceptable? They are men's clothes. They say newlyweds share one heart and one body, Maven countered with conviction. Harris's inner monologue soured. This meddlesome fool. On any other day, he cannot so much as meet my eyes. Now he stands here arguing and delivering lectures as though I were his student. But her wearing my clothes? An unbidden image materialized in Harris's mind. Adeline swimming in one of his oversized white shirts, the fabric slipping off one shoulder, the sight achingly familiar in a way he could not explain. Heat crept into his face as he propped his chin on one fist, pretending to deliberate. Not bad at all. Now look, in these manhwa, the sharp, dark-haired leading men are always so effortlessly masculine and decisive. Quite appealing, no? And devastatingly handsome on top of it. And so Adeline acquired her new attire. When she emerged, Catherine's jaw nearly hit the floor. Wow, my lady, honestly. Catherine's eyes glittered as she beheld her mistress transformed in Harris's clothing, radiating an almost regal elegance. Adeline, composed and striking, offered a quiet smile. You think so? Thank you. Shall we head to the dining room? We have kept everyone waiting long enough? Yes, my lady, Catherine agreed, falling into step beside her. As Adeline moved through the corridors, her mind turned reflective. Even if I do not stitch my own garments, someone can tailor them to fit me properly. Tasks I once shouldered alone can now be entrusted to capable hands. The sensation is foreign, but deeply liberating. Like finally unlacing a corset that has been crushing the breath out of me for years. I much prefer this to scheming. Perhaps I ought to make a habit of dressing this way. Maven awaited her at the dining room entrance, beaming. There you are. Everything is freshly prepared. His eyes went perfectly round, mouth falling open. Adeline, you look absolutely stunning. Privately, he marveled, even sharper than Aster. Adeline deflected with an easy grin. Maven, when you picture someone handsome, Aster is the first name that comes to mind? Not the Duke? Maven's expression turned sheepish. Well, I would rather not bring up the Duke, but Aster carries that princely aura, you know. He is the dashing, polished type. A completely different appeal from the Duke's brand of charm. Adeline pressed a hand over her lips, genuinely puzzled. Aster, really? It never once crossed my mind that he was handsome. Honestly, this girl. Outside of Harase, she cannot recognize a single bloom in the entire garden of attractive men. Adeline shook her head, utterly mystified by the concept. One question, Adeline, Maven ventured with a sly look. You believe our master is the most handsome man alive, do you not? Heat rushed to Adeline's cheeks at the piercing question. She had spent an entire lifetime devoted to that man. Of course, the answer was obvious. Yet she planted both hands on her hips, projecting bravado. Are you mocking me, Maven? Oh, I would never dare, Maven teased, grinning. Looks do not concern me in the slightest, Adeline declared with bold conviction. I only care about the weight of their coin purse. We are all human after all. Money is what sweetens life. With enough of it, I can indulge in everything. Her eyes narrowed dreamily at the possibilities. Maven nodded with exaggerated sympathy. The servants arranged her chair and bowed in unison. Well, in that case, your opinion of the Duke must be sky-high. I will be sure to remind him regularly so that you may live as lavishly as your heart desires. Adeline settled into her seat with a gracious nod. Thank you, Maven. You have been wonderful. Her thoughts drifted to darker waters. In truth, there were moments I savored life with Ray, never worrying about coin. I would love to share that with Maven, but the man who drove that blade through me without a heartbeat of hesitation was Ray himself. Even though I sit at this table once more, I remain utterly alone. Adeline lifted her fork and began to eat, but after a few bites, the utensil went still in her hand, her gaze drifting far away. Maven watched with growing concern. Does she dislike the food? Adeline, is something the matter? He asked gently. If the dish is not to your liking, I will have the chef prepare something else at once. Adeline summoned a thin smile. No, nothing is wrong. Thank you for the concern. I was merely lost in my own head. But tell me, does the Duke not normally dine down here? No, Maven answered. He takes his meals alone in his quarters. Adeline's tone sharpened. Normally? The way you say that implies I ought to accept it as perfectly natural and look the other way. Ah, Maven exclaimed, indignation flaring. As steward, I am frankly ashamed. Allow me to remedy this immediately. Adeline folded her arms on the table and fixed Maven with her most dazzling smile. Why the guilt? You have done nothing wrong, Maven. Please inform the Duke that within this estate, regardless of his established habits, there is no earthly reason I should accommodate or overlook his behavior. He is no longer a bachelor. I want him down here this instant to share a meal and a conversation with me. And if he insists on hiding up there, tell him I will refuse every bite of food until I waste away. She settled her chin on her palm, immovable as bedrock. Upstairs, Harass had his fork halfway to his mouth when Maven delivered the ultimatum. If the Duke did not come downstairs, the Duchess would starve herself to death. His food clattered back to the plate. She actually said that? Maven nodded gravely. Her exact words, sir. She threatened to end her own life. Harass broke into a sweat, tugging at his collar. What? She is going to wage war over a dinner table? A ragged sigh tore from his chest. That woman is insufferably difficult. Maven twisted the knife deeper. The gossip will spread that House Venzak starved its new bride on her very first evening. The blame will land squarely on you, master. Maven pressed relentlessly until Harass's eyes fell shut in surrender. Enough, I understand. Spare me the sermon. He rose from his chair with a groan. Prepare a second setting for me downstairs. Maven snapped into a crisp salute. An excellent decision, sir. Harass's thoughts churned beneath the surface. I need to measure exactly how much she knows about me. This could prove a valuable opportunity. Buried even deeper, in a place he refused to examine closely. I do not hate this at all. In the dining room, Adeline sat in stillness, her eyes half-lidded with private contemplation before they lifted, brightening at the sight of him. So you decided to show up? Her husband hesitated at the threshold, catching the ghost of melancholy that flickered through her gaze an instant before the brightness took hold. Something stirred in his chest that he could not name. Harass lowered himself into the chair across from her, studying her with quiet expectation. Resting her hands on the table's edge, she smiled. Thank you for lending me your wardrobe. I promise to take good care of it. They appear to fit you reasonably well, Harass observed, measured and neutral, despite being designed for a man. Adeline's brow creased. Is that truly your honest assessment? One dark eyebrow arched as he held her stare. Undeterred, she pressed on. You are my husband now, sir. Would it kill you to simply say they look nice on me? Harass reached for his fork with deliberate slowness. You certainly have no shortage of demands. If this arrangement displeases you, shall I pack my things and go home? Adeline countered. What exactly is it that you are doing? You are the one who pursued this marriage, are you not? Shifting into a wounded, plaintive tone, she continued. If you intend to dote on me, at least do it properly. I had no idea you could be this negligent. Harris's jaw tightened, a storm gathering behind his eyes. She will not yield an inch. The sigh that escaped him was closer to a groan. You play the role of my wife while refusing to carry my name. Fine. They suit you. Adeline speared a morsel, savoring it alongside her victory. Thank you for the kind words. A deliberate pause, then the corner of her mouth curled. Though it seems the name issue still bothers you quite a bit, Is it too late to annul this marriage? Herreys wondered with genuine desperation. Ha ha, I am only teasing, Adeline laughed. Come, let us eat before everything goes cold. She turned her attention to the meal, though her inner voice would not quiet. Has Ray ever actually listened to me before? If not, that is fine. Is it so wrong to be a little selfish this time around? I expected this tale to follow the usual script. Reborn heroine consumed by hatred for the man who wronged her, plotting his downfall at every turn. But that was never my story. I have never hated him, not even now. All I want is to nudge things closer to what they should have been. Lifting her eyes to meet his, she said simply, I will call you Ray. The declaration blindsided him. His fork hovered motionless over his steak for one suspended heartbeat before he resumed cutting. Suit yourself. Color rose faintly in Adeline's cheeks. This life already feels different somehow. Her smile widened as she leaned forward. Well then, Ray, try calling me Adeline. I imagine you would rather not keep referring to me as this woman or that woman forever, right? Harris nearly choked on his food, pausing mid-chew. Mustering the most strained of smiles, he managed a quiet, Adele. The instant that name left his lips, cold dread slammed into Adeline like a wave. Memories from a life already lived came flooding back, his voice crying out, Adele, with raw, ragged desperation. Her eyes flew wide, pulse hammering against her ribs. Concern flickered across his face. Are you all right? Adeline forced out a shaky laugh. Oh, it is nothing. The salad is just remarkably good. But Horace saw through the deflection without effort. She has not so much as touched the salad, he noted. Her thoughts churned in a frantic spiral. What was that voice echoing through my memories? If Ray had ever called me by that name, I would remember it without question. I'm absolutely certain he never once spoke my name across all 25 of those years. His face surfaced in her mind, blurred and incomplete. Though my recollections are fractured, of this one thing I am sure. Adele, I cannot bring Ray's features into sharp focus. Yet why did his voice carry such unbearable desperation? Dinner concluded in subdued silence, and darkness settled like a shroud over the Venzak estate. Out in the garden, Adeline cradled a teacup between both hands, her gaze lost among the stars. Adele, Ray's voice reached her from behind. She turned, her expression melting into something unguarded and tender. You actually used my name. I appreciate that more than you know. Not a trace of her usual barbs, only bare, honest sincerity. He drew closer, hands clasped behind his back. You are the one who insisted on it. But there is something I need to ask. A beat of hesitation, then he abandoned all preamble. How much do you truly know about us? Adeline set her teacup on the stone ledge with quiet composure. I know you are a diva. I know about the war waged between heaven and hell, and that heaven fell. That conflict raged 512 years ago across this very land, the Middle Realm, humanity's home, which once served as neutral territory between the two dominions. Devas descended from heaven, and Asuras emerged from hell, both treating this world as a place to rest and roam. But the covenant forbidding either side from claiming it was shattered. After a war that stretched across ages, the Devas were crushed by the Asuras. And you, Ray, are the last surviving leader of the Devas, the Durlo. She kept her true thought locked behind closed lips. Every word of this you told me yourself in my previous life. Aloud, she turned to face him. But in all those accounts, your own story was missing. I want to hear it from you. I have dreamt many things, she said again, softer now. Some vivid, some shrouded in fog. A carefully crafted lie, designed to draw Ray into revealing himself. With quiet urgency, she pressed on. That is why I want to hear about you. When you were born, how you lived. And this was the genuine desire of her heart. About me? Ray turned the question over in silence. He had never once looked inward. Every waking thought had bent toward evading the Azuras, toward survival, toward vengeance and seizing the Tree of Life. The past held nothing worth excavating, or so he believed. I just survived. I just lived, he said, the words flat and final. Adeline held his gaze, patient as stone. At last, he drew a breath and began. I was born within the Tree of Life, only a few months before the war erupted. You know, celestials and demons mature far faster than humans? In 3 or 4 months, we reach the equivalent of a 5 or 6-year-old child. Right around that time, the covenant between celestials and demons shattered. Both sides cast aside God's decree, scrambling to claim the middle realm. The relationship between demons and celestials was not always hostile. Humans worshipped us as gods, white-winged celestials embodying good, black-winged demons embodying evil. But the truth is, we are no different from humans, capable of the same virtue and the same cruelty. That is why we sometimes aided mortals and sometimes tormented them. We revealed ourselves, walked among them in disguise. Perhaps that closeness made both sides covet the middle realm even more. Adeline listened without blinking, then murmured softly, "Ray." His voice remained steady, almost detached. Skirmishes were constant, but I never imagined they would spiral so far. The war swept through the middle realm with terrifying speed, and heaven started losing. The demon leader Camellia had prepared with ruthless precision. Eventually, her forces breached heaven itself and set the Tree of Life ablaze, the very source of our power. Divine energy scattered like ash in the wind, and every celestial who could not wield it collapsed on the spot. In that chaos, I was named successor to the previous Durlo. But there was no time to be mentored. Fabianca, the Durlo before me, was already dead. Heaven's leadership had been stolen in an instant. The enemy poured in like a flood, annihilating everything. Family, comrades, they fell without hope. Countless celestials sank into a deep slumber to heal their wounds. It fell to me to search for survivors across the silent realm. By some stroke of fortune, the demon king Camellia also entered the silent realm. Strangely, so did I, despite suffering no grievous injury. That allowed me to hide while hunting for other celestials. As and Wakan, I found them there. He stood at her side, every word heavy with the gravity of centuries. Adeline asked quietly, "Did you search the middle realm as well?" "Heaven had fallen," he replied. "I had nowhere else to go. This territory, the land of shadows, mortals branded it cursed and abandoned it entirely. That made it the perfect place to rebuild." A gentle smile crossed her lips. "So revenge is what drives you." Ray did not flinch from the truth. Yes. Every comrade I discovered in the silent realm I awakened. One by one, I rebuilt our strength. I will kill the demon king Camellia and restore the Tree of Life. As Durlot, that mission is the only future I am permitted. Adeline regarded him with quiet anguish. Foolish man. In my past life, I believed his coldness stemmed from the weight of being Durlo. But the truth is simpler. He has been alone for so impossibly long that he has forgotten how to voice his own pain. He only endures. If that were not so, his eyes would not carry such deep sorrow. His strength is not born of resolve. It is forged from loneliness. Before she realized what she was doing, Adeline reached out and covered his hand with hers, rising to her feet. "From now on, I will stand beside you. So stop shouldering everything alone." Loneliness. I know it intimately, she thought. I want to lay bare every piece of myself to him. Are the fingertips I just touched cold? Ray held her gaze without a word, a faint warmth blooming across his cheeks. The days slipped past with surprising gentleness, and before anyone realized it, a full month had elapsed since Adeline's arrival at the Venzak estate. Maven, hands planted on his hips, barked cheerful orders from dawn to dusk. Whew! No rest for anyone. Hold on! That tree does not go there. That is the training ground. No, carry that table to the drawing room. Inside, Adeline hummed a quiet melody by the window, surveying the bustle below. She dispatched commands as though she had been rehearsing them for years. Spinning around with a luminous smile, she announced, "First order of business, the garden." I refuse to stare at that wasteland another day. Hire gardeners and bring in an architect while you're at it. Maven glanced her way, thinking, every time I seek the master's opinion, he parrots the same line. Do whatever she wants, like a wind-up toy with one phrase loaded. Surveying the garden's transformation, he nodded with satisfaction. Still, the mood around here has genuinely improved. Everyone seems lighter. A voice rang out from behind. Hey, would you look at all this? Maven whirled around. Wait, Wakan. The short-haired man flashing a wild grin was none other than the legendary Wakan, freshly returned from a mission. The instant his boots hit the estate grounds, he charged off to find his leader. While Aster and Ray sat deep in discussion, Wakan exploded through the door. Captain! Is it true you got married? His expression was wound tight enough to snap. Yes, Ray answered, never lifting his eyes from the document in his hand. Wakan closed the distance in agitated strides. Really? When? To whom? From where? How? Aster fielded the barrage calmly. She is a seer. The wedding took place about a month ago, while you were buried in the Ice Isles. Her name is Adeline, the distinguished lady of House Rotlin. Turning to Ray, Aster offered, Shall I walk him through why the marriage had to happen immediately? Wakan barked, Nobody asked you. Stay out of it, I am talking to the captain. Aster replied, unfazed, That is not a conversation. You are just screaming in face. Wakan bellowed, Damn it! I told you to keep your mouth shut. You should have stopped him from doing something like this. Aster let out a weary sigh. Why on earth would I stop him? I am the one who persuaded him to marry her. Rage ignited across Wakan's face, turning it scarlet. You! How dare you steal my role? Finding the captain a worthy wife was supposed to be my job. Golden-haired Aster matched his impudence measure for measure. Then you should have found her first. Open warfare erupted between the two subordinates, their glares practically striking sparks, while the man responsible for the entire mess sat motionless, offering nothing. The battle concluded when Wakan snarled, Forget you. I would rather go see this woman with my own eyes than waste another second in your company. After Wakan stormed out, Aster crossed his arms and watched the empty doorway. Honestly, that man grows more unhinged with every return. Captain, why do you never rein him in? Ray, chin propped on his fist, eyes closed in tranquil surrender, exhaled. Let him be. Aster pressed uncertain, but then a thought calmed him. I suppose even the captain will end up deferring to her. A trace of pride entered Ray's voice. Precisely. We do not need to intervene. She could handle 10 walk-ons with one hand. A faint smile lingered on Ray's lips, though unease stirred beneath it. Still, I worry. I should speak with him afterward. What exactly is Wakan thinking? The hyperactive warrior stormed toward the garden, determined to judge this woman for himself, irritation carved into every line of his face. The wife of Dirlo? He fumed. How dare they pull a stunt this enormous while I was freezing my bones in the Ice Isles? If she turns out to be nothing remarkable, I will throw her out personally. His fist clenched with furious resolve. Then, in the distance, he spotted a woman crowned in gold. Beneath the blazing sun, Adeline's hair burned like molten light. She stood amid servants, issuing instructions, her slender frame radiating an authority that commanded every eye. That must be her, Wakan concluded, studying her from behind. His patience lasted approximately 3 seconds. Hey! Adeline and the others turned, eyebrows raised. The gardener cast a nervous glance at Wakan, but Adeline remained perfectly composed. Is something the matter? I am fine. Continue your work. Catherine, bring some chilled tea. The lilacs belong over there, and move that tree to the far side. Wakan, livid at being so thoroughly dismissed by the new mistress, roared, You! Do you have any idea who I am? Adeline regarded him with a serene, radiant smile. As I said, allow me to reverse the question. Do you know who I am? Why charge in so aggressively when you already have the answer? Speak, Wakan. How does she know my name? Wakan muttered under his breath, then erupted, Forget that. Why are you not using formal speech with me? Adeline's composure did not waver. Answer my question first. Do you know who I am? Wakan sneered. You are Duchess Adeline Rotlin, are you not? Just a... Precisely, Adeline cut him off, her voice turning to ice. I am Adeline Rotlin, wife of Duke Harris Venzak, your master. Her violet eyes hardened to amethyst. Pivoting to face him squarely, she pressed, Which means you are addressing your master's wife without a shred of deference, thereby disrespecting him. Tell me, Wakan, are you declaring a rebellion? Wakan went rigid, his words tripping over themselves. I I would never disrespect the captain. Adeline's gaze drifted to the blade strapped across his back, and her voice slowed deliberately. That sword, it is the divine blade Nikagras. The words struck Wakan like a physical blow. How could you possibly know about this sword? Adeline allowed herself a thin smile. Did Ray not mention it? I am a seer. Cold sweat broke across Wakan's skin. That is actually true? Adeline lowered her gaze, affecting disappointment. You call yourself a loyal follower, yet you do not even listen when your master speaks. Wakan's face flushed crimson with frustration, but no retort came. She pressed further, her tone shifting. Regarding that sword, it is merely dormant. I can awaken it. The declaration hit Wakan like a warhammer. His entire demeanor shifted as he stood there, thunderstruck. Tilting her head, she challenged, Would you acknowledge me if I brought it back to life? Skepticism fought against hope in Wakan's expression. He reached behind and drew the blade with slow reverence. Awaken this sword? You? That is absurd. This blade fell silent when Heaven's tree of life perished. Without a new tree, it cannot stir. How could a mere human accomplish what creation itself cannot? Adeline tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, wholly unruffled. Then let us test it. What is there to lose? This sword matters to you, does it not? It belonged to Commander Fabian. The invocation of that golden-haired commander's name silenced Wakan completely. All bravado drained from his face, replaced by something raw and reverent. He lost this blade in the final battle. We only recovered it recently. Cradling the sword in both hands, he extended it toward Adeline with trembling arms. This sword is not merely important to me. It belonged to the commander. Hope blazed in his eyes. Can you truly awaken it? I carry this blade because its light died. If it could burn again, I want to place it in the captain's hands. His grip tightened around the hilt, his voice dropping to solemn gravity. Let me ask you once more. Can you restore this blade to our Durlo? Adeline accepted the sword with careful hands, her smile blazing with certainty. You want it that fiercely? Then I will make it happen. A gentler note entered her voice. And Wakan, the true reason I wish to awaken this blade is so that you can wield it in defense of our Durlo. That is why... Her palm settled over the sapphire gem embedded in the hilt. Ancient runes ignited in the air around them, and the blade began to rise of its own accord. Adeline focused every thread of her knowledge, whispering, These are Deva runes? Her eyes fell shut. She chanted the runes in a low, steady voice, and magic spiraled outward, the air itself thrumming with resonance. Wakan gaped, awestruck, as radiance erupted from the steel, its cerulean glow flooding his wide eyes. Impossible. She is human, and yet she is actually doing it. The incantation reached its conclusion, and the gem on the hilt flared to brilliant, living light. Cradling the blade in both hands, Adeline smiled in triumph. Wakan, take it. It is yours. Do you believe me now? For the first time in his long warrior's life, Wakan stood completely vanquished. Relief washed through him in a wave, and he lowered his gaze, exhaling deeply. Why? She is only human, so much younger than me. Yet her presence bears the weight of something far greater. Genuine warmth crossed his face as he dropped to one knee. Forgive my insolence. Allow me to offer my belated respects, Duchess Adeline Venzak. I am Wakan Huyn. I will follow your commands and wield this blade to protect our Dirlo with everything I have. Adeline gave a satisfied nod. Very well, Wakan. Let me reintroduce myself properly. Adeline Rotlin. I look forward to working alongside you. From now on, simply call me Adeline. And just like that, another soul had fallen under Adeline's spell. Wakan stumbled back into Ray's study, breathless. Captain! The two men, both already thoroughly conquered by Adeline, regarded him with quiet contempt. Aster scoffed. What happened to you? You look even more brain-dead than when you left. Did Adeline crush you? Observing Wakan's docile, practically domesticated expression, Ray offered a sympathetic murmur. Seems like it. Aster leaned forward with concern. Captain, he is not injured, is he? Ray could only spread his hands in helpless surrender. Then the overwhelmed Wakan finally found his voice, trembling with raw emotion. Captain! Captain! He thrust the awakened sword high, its gem blazing with fierce brilliance. Look at this! Aster and Ray shot to their feet, staring at the resurrected blade in disbelief. How is this possible? That sword was clearly... Wakan declared it was dead asleep, but Adeline laid her hands on it, worked it a few times, and it blazed back to life. Adeline? Ray repeated, incredulous. Wakan elaborated, Yes, Adeline. At first I wondered if the Tree of Life had somehow stirred it awake, but then why would you not have sensed it, Captain? I dismissed you when you called her a seer or whatever, but now I have no choice but to believe. She spoke the diva language. Aster bristled. Why are you suddenly picking a fight with me? Warrior instincts flared on both sides, and the two lunged at each other, snarling, You want to go? I have got a holy sword now. Even without it, you are not worth my fist. Training yard, right now! But in all seriousness, folks, these two rank among the final elites of the Celestial clan. There is a reason they have survived this long. Steadfast retainers of my husband, Ray. Ray sat motionless, assembling the pieces in stunned silence, murmuring, Adeline. Spoke Deva? Yet his thoughts kept drifting to her radiant image, golden hair catching the sunlight like liquid summer. Humans can study Diva and Asura tongues, he reasoned, but they can never articulate them clearly. Only seers among mortals achieve true fluency. So Adeline genuinely is a seer. That is precisely why I pursued this marriage. But why does something still feel so unsettled? Later, amid the garden's quiet bloom, Adeline stood in still reflection, her mind reaching back through time. She recalled how Hala had channeled her power to awaken the very same sword after Adeline's own attempt ended in humiliation. Walking away from that scene, she had felt completely worthless. Tears had carved rivers down her cheeks as she watched Hala weave the spell that roused the blade. Yet even through her anguish, she had memorized every single step, saving them for precisely this moment. A soft smile touched Adeline's lips now. This time I did it myself. She pressed a hand over her mouth, half embarrassed, thinking, honestly, I was half bluffing and never expected it to actually work. But luck had nothing to do with Adeline's success. This was the harvest of years of silent, stubborn effort. The question nagged at her. Was this achievement rooted in magic? I need to guard my abilities more carefully than I did before. Wakan's shock replayed in her mind. After Aster first awakened me to my magical potential in my previous life, I practiced in secret every chance I found. Bit by bit, I learned to cast without speaking a single incantation. That is how I levitated the sword earlier. That mastery came perhaps 1 or 2 years before my death in that life. The memory surfaced vividly, herself chasing after Ray, calling out, Wait, Duke! She had believed so desperately that she could help him, and magic had seemed like the path. Glowing with pride, she showed him small objects hovering in midair, saying, What do you think? I can do things like this instantly now. But where she expected wonder, Ray's voice came cold and final. That power. Never use it in front of others. The light died in her eyes. Duke? Why? She stammered, and tears spilled down her face as she bowed her head in crushing despair. Jolting back to the present, Adeline steadied herself. After that day, I never displayed my magic to anyone again. The truth is, what I showed him was nothing extraordinary. If basic tricks failed to impress him, the real concern was not the tricks themselves. It was that I no longer needed incantations. I could cast in complete silence. If that was dangerous then, it remains dangerous now. She studied her human hands, remembering how Ray had turned and walked away into the dark without looking back. Why now, she thought, the ache spreading through her chest. If only my memories were whole, then I would know what expression he truly wore that day. Was he scolding me? Something tells me he was worried. Worried about me for some reason. But the image will not come. Her reverie broke as several maids called out brightly, My lady, shall we arrange the tea table here? The girls were laying out an afternoon tea service in the newly revived garden, which was at last beginning to feel like a true home. One maid beamed. The Venzak estate feels alive since you arrived, my lady. Adeline returned her warmth. That is a lovely thing to hear. The maid inquired about the recently expanded training ground nearby. Adeline confirmed it served Lord Venzak's practice sessions and would help recruit additional knights. As she set her empty teacup down and waited for a refill, the maid observed admiringly, Your mind never rests, my lady. You are always 3 steps ahead. Adeline's tone turned earnest. I intend to learn swordsmanship from Wakan. Truly, the maid exclaimed, eyes wide. Undeterred by the surprise, Adeline leaned in. My dream is to become the greatest swordmaster alive, wielding the most legendary blade ever forged. Under Wakan's teaching, I believe I could reach that height. The maid blinked, uncertain. My lady, you cannot be serious. Savoring a sip of warm tea, Adeline kept her true thoughts close. It does sound ridiculous, but I am dead serious about training under Wakan. If I master the sword, I can disguise my magic entirely. A legendary blade flashing with power, people will assume the brilliance belongs to the weapon, not the wielder. Her mind drifted to the past life, to the moment danger descended and Ray commanded, "Stay behind me." The memory of that terror, the helplessness of standing frozen while the person she loved bled, still gnawed at her bones. Resolve hardened her voice. I want to become strong enough that no one can ever control me again. The maid, more perceptive than most, noticed the transformation sweeping through Adeline's expression. Her puzzlement softened into gentle understanding. I do not know what weighs on you, my lady, but please, do not carry it alone. You are already stronger than you realize, far beyond the reach of anyone's influence. Color rushed to Adeline's cheeks, warmed by the earnest praise and the maid's genuine smile. You truly are wonderful, my lady, Adeline answered brightly. I appreciate that more than you know. Thank you, Rebecca. That night, sleep dragged Adeline deep into the waters of memory. In her dream, Aster's voice cracked with fury. We have to drag that girl along, Captain. She nearly got you killed. Ray never turned around. We will take her. Aster erupted. Captain, shh. Desperation and dread warred across his face at his leader's reckless insistence. Overhearing their clash, Adeline's heart fractured. Tears streamed freely as she wondered, what use am I to anyone here? Wakan and Hela's frigid stares bore into her, and desolation swallowed her whole. Nobody believes in me. So why does Ray keep dragging me along? Ray. She sank to her knees, head bowed, whispering something between a prayer and a plea. Ray's voice came from above, measured and unreadable. Have you realized anything today? Adeline kept her head low, barely audible. Nothing. As always, I have no answers. Is there truly nothing I can do for you? The weight of the memory shattered the dream, hurling her back to consciousness. She clutched the blanket to her chest, heart hammering. Perhaps seeing Wakan today triggered this. I dreamed of that day again. How much longer must these memories haunt me? How many more times must I prove my worth before this gnawing dread finally releases its grip? Silence blanketed the world outside. The full moon spilled its pale light across the balcony, illuminating Adeline's small, solitary silhouette. She stared outward, eyes wide against the darkness. This is my room now, not that cramped, decaying cell from before. The chambers of a true duchess. Ray no longer interrogates me each night. I should be relieved. I should be happy. So why? Bare feet met cold stone as Adeline slipped from the bed. On this quiet night when he does not come, why does loneliness cut so deep? She drifted to the balcony, resting both hands on the railing, thoughts unraveling into the dark. Do I truly hate him? Do I truly despise him? Her gaze swept across the vast courtyard to the empty balcony of the room beside hers. What happens if one day my heart simply forgets him entirely? The hushed night crept onward until the last candle guttered and died. 2 months later, Aster and Wakan stood slack-jawed before a newly erected structure. Aster could scarcely believe it had materialized in a mere 2 months, and he had no notion of what Adeline intended for it. Wakan, sword forever strapped to his back, gazed at the building with naked admiration. Ray too observed in silence, taking the measure of the imposing, completed edifice. Aster ventured, Do you have any idea? I think asking Adeline directly would be wisest. Wakan rubbed his chin, musing aloud. At this pace, we ought to start calling Adeline Captain instead of him. She is practically running operations already, being his wife and all. Aster groaned. Where is this sudden bootlicking coming from? As they puzzled over the mystery, Adeline appeared in a flowing light blue dress and announced brightly, It is a dormitory for the knights we will be recruiting. Stunned silence swept through the group. Aster, arms folded, challenged, Knights? We do not have nearly enough people to fill a dormitory. Adeline countered, Beyond divas, we will be hiring mercenaries as well. Inwardly, she smirked. It went up so fast because I reinforced the construction with magic. Aster whipped toward Ray, baffled. Captain, what is happening? Genuine frustration creased his face. Ray, blindsided by his wife's guileless smile, admitted, I was not informed about this. Adeline protested, That is impossible. I would never make a decision of this magnitude without authorization. How strange. I received approval through Maven. A bead of sweat ran down Ray's temple. Should we summon Maven to verify? Then the memory struck. He recalled Maven depositing stacks of documents on his desk for approval. Buried among the endless parade of Adeline proposes reports, Ray had stamped every last one with OK and muttered, Let her do what she wants. Ray's expression collapsed. I have sealed my own fate. Aster raised a clenched fist, teeth gritted. Captain! Adeline beamed, thoroughly delighted at slipping past unscathed. Wakan spoke up next. Adeline, what is behind this sudden recruitment push? And mercenaries over proper knights? Do you understand how savage they can be? Adeline answered without hesitation. I understand perfectly. But how long will progress take with just the three of you? The remaining divas are few, and most still slumber in meditation, needing considerable time to awaken. We require a broader intelligence network on Asura and Diva movements. Aster challenged, even with open recruitment, who would brave the Night Forest to enlist? Oh, I see. That is precisely why you want mercenaries. Adeline's smile sharpened. Exactly. Mercenaries fight for profit, and I see nothing wrong with that. They are like us, ultimately. People who battle fiercely simply to survive. She turned to Aster with an encouraging nod. Train the recruits, would you? Aster sputtered at the undiscussed assignment. I have never trained anyone in my life. Adeline waved his panic away. You will manage, Aster. She had every reason for confidence. In her previous life, Aster had trained mercenaries and excelled at it. Her gaze slid toward Ray and Wakan, and both men visibly shrank under it. Wakan muttered defensively, What now? Adeline dissolved into laughter. I did not mean to laugh, but you two look exactly like scolded puppies. Wakan and Aster gnashed their teeth and traded outraged banter. Did she just call the captain a dog? Even the Demon King would jolt awake from meditation hearing that. Ha ha! Ray never argued with his wife, not once, even as Adeline teased until tears of mirth streamed down her own face. Wiping them away, she gathered herself. All right, I have laughed enough. I have tasks for Wakan and for Ray as well. Fortunately, everyone I need is right here. They think I have lost my mind, she reflected, but, drawing a steadying breath, she declared, I am going to build a road through the Night Forest. The announcement detonated like a thunderclap. Ray and the others stood frozen. Wakan shifted nervously. Adeline, the Night Forest is... Adeline faltered briefly. I know, but... Ray's refusal came swift and absolute. No. She had anticipated this. Leaning forward, she challenged, Do you honestly believe I would propose something this dangerous without a plan? Ray's voice hardened. Plan or not, you cannot. Redecorating the estate, transforming the garden, constructing a dormitory, all acceptable. But this crosses a line that even you cannot make me agree to. Adeline paused, weighing his words. Even for me? Because I am a seer? She pushed back. Have you forgotten what I am? I am a seer. Do you not think I already know that the Night Forest harbors celestial flora? Ray's eyes sharpened to blades. You know that, and you are still proposing this madness? Steel entered Adeline's expression, unyielding. Why dismiss it as madness before you have heard a single word of my reasoning? Ray's severity wavered. I only mean... Adeline did not relent. Ray, I will never do anything to endanger you or the Devas. Do you know why? My ambition is to fulfill every one of your goals within 10 years. After that, I intend to spend the rest of my days here, peaceful, unburdened, and free. Every syllable rang with unshakable sincerity, the authentic dream of a reborn woman who finally understood what she wanted from life. Aster nearly choked. 10 years? Ray's thoughts reeled. We planned for 200 years at minimum. Why would she... Adeline spoke with quiet authority. If it is me, I can accomplish it. So, Wakan... Yes, Wakan responded instantly. Adeline raised her voice for emphasis. Starting immediately, you will teach me swordsmanship. I need to be strong enough to protect my chronically suspicious husband. In that single sentence, Ray transformed into the pitiable party requiring protection in everyone's eyes. The others fought valiantly to contain their laughter, leaving Ray stranded between humiliation and exasperation. Adeline clapped her hands once. We have had our fun. Now listen, I will explain exactly why I want to carve a road through the night forest, and how in 10 years I intend to end this war. Pointing skyward, she began, First, I am traveling to Mavane Island. Aster blinked. Wait, Adeline, we were discussing the night forest. Why Mavane Island? Wakan tilted his head, intrigued. You plan to go there personally? It is impossibly far. Teleportation will not reach. By ship, you are looking at over a week. Adeline's grin widened. You guessed correctly. I am going in person. I have even arranged to visit Makran City along the way. Ray stared, each revelation landing like a fresh blow. Aster ventured cautiously. Are you not being a bit... Adeline met his concern head-on. What? Worried about Mokran's crime and corruption? Her unwavering confidence rendered all three men speechless, their objections dissolving before they could form. At last, Adeline's expression turned grave. Let me share 3 reasons. I spoke of building a road through the night forest, but it will not be merely a road. The celestial trees that shroud the forest in perpetual darkness originated in heaven. They once grew only there, yet for unknown reasons they took root in the mortal realm and twisted into something warped and menacing. Despite that corruption, their inherent divine power endures. It shields the Venzak territory. Any ordinary person who enters is driven to madness or death by the tree's energy. We cannot fully prevent Asuras from manifesting, but we can block those who are possessed by them. But I am resolved to do this so the road can be opened and sealed at will. And achieving that requires eliminating those who conspire to resurrect the Demon King. I plan to host a grand banquet. It has been quite some time since you, Aster, and Wakan adopted the name Heresy, has it not? Her husband inclined his head slightly. Yes, that is true. Winning his agreement sent a thrill through her. Adeline's grin flashed bright before her gaze sharpened to a razor's edge. Then it follows that they have been watching us all along, waiting for an opening to infiltrate and destroy everything we have built. If it is me, I can identify whether intruders carry Asura possession. Fierce conviction blazed in her voice. I swear, the day our people reclaim this land is not far. That is why I must go to Mavane Island. Even if I grasp the theory, I still need specific materials to construct the road. Ray pressed, worry threading through his words. But must you go yourself? If it is merely ordinary materials, we have ample supply. Adeline shook her head. If everything I required were already here, I would not need to leave. But... She turned to Aster with a knowing look. Aster, the food around here is rather dreadful, is it not? Aster answered honestly. Yeah, it's awful. Adeline laughed. No need to backtrack. Your face already confessed. She went on. Attracting a skilled chef to a place like this is nearly impossible. While carrying out my plan, I intend to recruit one. There is a particular chef on the island I want everyone to meet. Covering her mouth as though catching a stray thought, she added, Oh, I nearly forgot. The mercenaries I plan to hire happen to possess a ship, which is precisely what we need to reach Mavane Island.